Now, whether you've got a giant fur baby like us here or a much smaller, more reasonably sized dog, we can all agree that these are much more than dogs. They are cherished and loved members of every single family that absolutely no one wants to see anything bad happen to. Now, in today's video, we'll be doing a review of the Fi Smart Collar, and we'll be mixing in a lot of the learnings we've had over the past year here of using the collar, in addition to some information that we learned from the CEO and co-founder of Fi, Jonathan, who's also going to chime in with some different anecdotes as well. Now, if you're thinking about getting a smart collar for your dog, there are many different reasons that could be leading you down this path. One of the most common of these is just the ability to track the dog from a GPS standpoint should they escape or get lost, and you want to have a way to be able to find them before something bad happens. Other owners are more interested in the activity tracking features to make sure that your dog is getting enough exercise and staying at an appropriate weight. The good news is that depending on whether it's either one of these or a combination of the two, Fi actually has you covered with these features as well as many more. So with that, we'll jump into the review of this collar here that you can see Gus is currently wearing. Now, for those of you who might be less technologically inclined, the good news for you is that the Fi product is very simple and straightforward to use, and this begins all the way from the beginning of time when you set up. Now, when you do order the product, you'll receive a very kind of simple and concise packaging and box here that comes with the contents inside of the collar, the charging base, and a very simple set of instructions that really walks you through this process. Now, the key thing to point out here is that when you do receive the collar, it does take about 2 hours for that initial charge to get it powered up. And at that point, you'll simply be downloading the Fi app to your smartphone or tablet and just walking through the step to connect the collar to the base and your phone to it as well. Now, this took me about 2 minutes, and I found it very simple and straightforward, and the instructions that are provided also make it incredibly easy as well. Now, moving past that, we all know that when it comes to electronics, the bane of many devices is their battery life. Now, if a product that you want to use is only lasting you for a couple of days, the likelihood of you wanting to, charge this over and over and over again, or having to remember about the hassle of going and putting the charger, is probably going to make you not want to use the product and have it not be an enjoyable experience. Thankfully, once again, for the Fi Smart Collar here, I found this to not be the case at all. Now, in our specific testing, I found this to last about 2 months on an individual charge here. Now, while I found these numbers to be absolutely mind-blowing, it's worth pointing out that the battery life that you experience may vary a little bit depending on how the collar is used. Now, inside of our home, Gus spends much of the day kind of, inside the home or with my wife or I, and for that reason, the collar is able to connect over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to both the base that's sitting inside our home, as well as our respective mobile phones as a way of kind of getting GPS updates and feeding in different information. And for this reason, because it's not using the antenna or the GPS inside of the collar as often, it's able to save and conserve a lot of battery life. Now, according to the Fi website, you can expect up to 3 months in this type of usage. However, let's say if your dog is, away from the house or not with you on the phone, where it is making these more frequent pings to the GPS antenna using the LTE-M connection, that of course is going to eat up a little more power. Now, in that scenario, they project that being completely away from home, just always making these GPS pings, it's still going to last anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. So still a really good turnaround in terms of battery life there. And then last but not least, the really scary scenarios, if your dog were to be lost and it's kind of pinging that GPS antenna constantly trying to get the latest updates, that usage can extend up to 2 days. Now, while that may sound not as long, hopefully you're not spending more than a day here trying to find your dog, and the reason it eats through the battery so fast is because they are just getting these constant updates in an effort to save your dog. So we'll jump here to a clip of Jonathan where he kind of speaks more in depth about why this is valuable in terms of finding the dog and how they've made it so effective.
Power of battery preservation, most of the time it's not one thing that is like one game changer. It's a lot of little things that just end up adding up. And so in our case, there were just a lot of different pieces of technology that we could put together and drive with software to optimize the way the collar was using battery. And how long do you need to power that antenna to actually get a location? And then on cellular side, it's kind of the same thing. If you can be smart and start using, heuristics to decide when to try very hard or when to not try very hard, and like base your assumptions and your decision making there on past experience in the same area or things like that, then you can build systems that are just much smarter at making these small decisions, and that just adds up into a lot of power saving.
So as you can see, Fi has done a lot of intelligent things to really ensure that they give you the best possibility here of locating your dog in the event that they are lost in a very scary situation like that. Now, of course, it's also worth pointing out that this type of coverage here in terms of locating your dog, it is, of course, plotting this over a map. It's using an AT&T network, so there's still going to be limitations around, does it actually have signal in certain places? But largely speaking, when I was testing this in a, kind of suburban environment with my wife where she would drive off with Gus to a hidden location and have her phone not with her, I was able to track Gus through the app and find them safely to ensure that I was able to safely recover her in this test scenario without actually putting her at risk. So at least in my kind of real world testing here in the area that I live, it's worked fantastic. Very extreme rural areas, perhaps where there's lots of mountains or maybe there is no cell coverage, that could potentially pose an issue. But I think for the vast majority of owners who are kind of in these more, urban or suburban environments, it should work great for you.
Not burning that much battery doesn't only extend like the charging cycle. It's not only about being lazy and like not having to recharge that for convenience every few days, right? It's more like when your dog gets lost, and we hope it never happens, right? But like when your dog gets lost, if there is 95% of battery in the device at the time where it gets lost, then we can be very aggressive about like trying to get the location of the dog. And, that's a phase where we're not very efficient in battery conservation. We don't try to save battery when your dog is lost. We try to find your dog very fast and have a location in a very accurate way, right? So we're going to spend more energy to try to get more information about your dog, right? But if the tracker has like 20% battery, when you lose your dog, then you're literally decreasing the chances to find your dog. So, having a device that is better at having a longer battery life means that we're burning less battery when nothing happens,
Sure.
And so for us, it's about increasing the likelihood to recover your dog if he gets lost by having more battery at that starting point of the operation.
Now, it's also worth pointing out that these GPS tracking features don't come without a minor added cost here. Now, much like your cell phone or a tablet that has a data plan associated to, connect to the internet and watch YouTube videos to do other things like that, the same also applies to the Fi collar so that, if your dog is out and away from the home and lost, it has the ability to transmit and receive data to send those location updates. Now, through the Fi website, you can purchase either a 1, 2, or 3-year plan, and depending on the longer term that you pick, you will get larger and larger discounts depending on what you go with there. But as a whole, at least as it stands today in September of 2020, all of them end up being a little bit less than $2 a week. Now, while this is an added cost, I think when you consider this in the grand scheme of, finding our lost dog and saving their life, it's worth every penny of it to me. So something just to kind of keep in the back of your mind that it's not just buying the collar initially up front, but also the GPS plan down the road to power it as well. Now that covers a lot of the GPS related features for the Fi Smart Collar here, but another avenue or thing that I have really grown fond of over time is the activity tracking features. Now what this essentially does is you can set a goal for your dog where in Gus's case it is 10,000 steps a day, and then throughout the day she's wandering around the house, following my wife and I around, or we go on walks, we go to the dog park. It's continuously tracking all these different steps through a built-in pedometer here to just have a rough estimate of kind of how much activity she's getting. And inside of the application, and I'll kind of put this up on screen, you can see how it plots this on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, just to see how you meet your goals over time. Now, initially I thought this was a little bit gimmicky, but I've come to really like it as Gus here in particular is aging, because I want to make sure that she is getting her required activity to stay at a healthy weight. So it's just a really great way to help keep me accountable, really more than anything, to ensure that she's getting the right amount of exercise here. Another thing that I found really interesting is that we actually went away on a short vacation and Gus went to stay at a boarder. And I've always noticed in the past that Gus would come back from a boarder exhausted, and I figured it's just because she was having fun playing with dogs, or maybe she wasn't sleeping as well. But compared to a normal day where she gets about her 10,000 steps, I noticed that for the 3 days of the boarder, she was getting over 45,000 steps a day. So just a really kind of funny way to, figure out, what was going on at the boarder here, because she was wearing the Fi Smart Collar that was making her so tired. She gets, apparently she was just on her feet all day playing with the other dogs and having fun. So kind of an interesting kind of anecdote there to see what happens. But once again, also as you consider as your dog ages, kind of seeing are they getting a decline in activity, perhaps that's an indicator that maybe their hips or other joints are bothering them, or they have some other type of medical condition. I think it's a great way to help kind of diagnose and stay on track of these things that if you weren't tracking otherwise, it's just hard to remember what you did not only yesterday, but a week ago or a month ago. Now, since our original review of this collar that we did a little over a year ago, Fi has also incorporated some new features to the collar as well around the social side of things. And this really kind of takes two different forms. One of these is around just the social sharing of kind of seeing other photos of dogs who are using and wearing the Fi collar, but it also ties into the activity tracking as well. So you can see both for your breed and your respective state, how your dog actually stacks up compared to these other dogs in terms of how many steps they're getting on a accumulated monthly basis. Now, this is kind of interesting, I think, to understand, in our case with Gus here being a Great Dane, how does her activity level compare to that of other Great Danes to see, okay, maybe is she getting more activity than other Great Danes? Is she getting a lot less? And then also just for fun, kind of driving that competitive factor of, we want to make sure that our dogs are always getting plenty of exercise. So maybe we need to step it up a little bit, so to speak, to ensure that they get that. I think it's a great way to kind of gamify this and make sure that, because you can basically see everybody else inside the profile here, you want to make sure that you're doing the right things to ensure that your dog gets the right steps. So while the social features I thought initially, may not be as big of a value, I actually found that I kind of, on a weekly basis was always driving to make sure that we hit our daily step goals so that Gus kept moving up the rankings.
I think, like the social features, and like when we say social feature, it's a big bucket. I think we always had the feeling that one of the things that we can create around the Fi collar is like, we have a lot of dogs wearing this collar right now in the field, and it's kind of a super interesting community of passionate dog owners who really love their dog and value their health and their safety above anything else, And so we want to connect them. We want them to be able to have share their experience together and elevate the experience around, their dogs together. So, there are some, and we test a lot of things about that. Like, we build some things, we have some ideas, we test one thing another, some stick, some don't. Mm-hmm. Like, we tried a lot of things with pictures, a lot of things with content. We did the ranking thing. So like the ranking is a good example of that, right? It's a very successful feature. People love it. People share it. Like it's something that really ignited the competitive instinct in each and every one of us. And so I think it's a great example of a mix of something that feels social and fun and gamified and all of that people are competing with each other. But there is a real utilitarian underlying aspect, which is I'm more informed about what my dog is doing.
Now, also as an update to our review from last year is the kind of the look and the appearance of the Fi collar. Now, last year at this time, they had only two options between a yellow or a gray band for the collar itself, but you can see that since then, they now have options here for a pink and blue as well to go along with these previous options. And they've also included a built-in martingale style collar as well that all can be easily swapped and interchangeably added or removed to the collar. And then about a month ago, Fi also introduced the Fi Makers program, where they're building out this huge marketplace here of certified independent collar makers.
We have the Makers program that we shipped like same thing in the last month or something like that, which is really amazing because all of a sudden it allows Fi customers to buy custom-made band in like the material that they favored and like the color they want, the stitching they want, customized barcodes, all of that. All of these options that are kind of impossible for us to do at scale, right?
Yep.
Because we cannot have like 150 options out there, but by partnering with all of these makers out there that kind of organically emerged around our business and just started making, custom bands for the Fi collar, now we're able to actually have a program where you have like so many options out there. It's fantastic. And the quality of the work they are doing is very impressive. So super excited about that.
Funny enough, I thought the look as of a year ago was a little bit limited in terms of having only two colors and kind of different collar sizes, but seeing that they've added several more collars and a martingale internally and then also broadened out to this marketplace, I think is really a great sign of kind of building this market around Fi to ensure that not only they stay around for years here with these supported third parties, but also that, we as pet owners have the ability to find something that we like. So to sum things up, I think that the Fi collar is a fantastic product. The entire experience end to end has just been a really positive one in my opinion here, all the way from just the ease of setup, charging for only 2 hours and lasting for 2 months, easy installation and setup at the application, and then really fun features on the social side to kind of get that competitiveness going and the activity tracking to make sure that Gus is staying healthy. Really just make it a very well-rounded product, and I think it's a great sign also to see that Fi as a company is continuing to expand through things like the Fi Maker program, and always continuing to add new features to the product is a great way to kind of keep them on their toes and keep them accountable to continuing to provide a great service. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the Fi Smart Color, or you're even considering purchasing it, we were able to get a $25 discount off the collar for you at purchase, and you can take advantage of this by navigating to greatdanecare.com/tryfi, and at checkout, you'll type in the code DANE25. Now, to be upfront, this is an affiliate link, so we do get a small commission for having taken the time to spend months testing this and producing this review, but otherwise, I would once again highly recommend it. You can see that Gus wears it, and she's been wearing it for over a year now, so we think it's a fantastic product, and if you'd like to learn more about it, you can also check out the description below. We've got a full kind of written out article that really goes through a lot of the details that I covered in this video here, as well as many more for you. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and until next time, stay Daney, my friends.